All right, so let's jump into your New York Football Giants and talk a little bit about them. Now, just to give you an idea, because we mentioned on our Washington podcast section that they've got the number 4 overall pick, so they've got a high draft pick. They've got the 6th most money to burn at $74 million in salary cap space coming up for this year. So I'm going to give you a quick little list of some of the unrestricted free agents and highlight a few guys. At inside linebacker, they had traded for Alec Ogletree. He came over from the Rams, and he is open for free agency. An outside linebacker, Kareem Martin, is also up. Probably the bigger name, because it was kind of a curious trade, and you and I talked about it in previous podcasts when it went down during the season, was Leonard Williams. He went for a 3rd-rounder this upcoming year, and he is going to be scheduled for free agency too as well. Outside linebacker Marcus Golden, right tackle Mike Remmers, got your free safety Michael Thomas, wide receivers Cody Lattimore and Russell Shepard. So Russell Shepard's an interesting one, I think, that deserves being noted. Zach Diossi, your long snapper.
Zach Diossi's been with us forever.
Okay. Not usually a huge contract, so that might be a guy you see re-sign.
We always re-sign that guy.
Yeah, so you've got Antonio Hamilton at cornerback, David Mayo at inside linebacker, Deion Buchanan at inside linebacker. You've got Javarius Allen, who's a low depth chart guy at running back, Scott Simonson, Corey Coleman at wide receiver. Is that Corey Coleman, the guy that was drafted
from the Browns?
Yeah, okay. Was he part of a trade? He's got to have been part of a trade.
No, we picked him up in free agency.
Okay. And then your last 2 guys on there, Cody Core is a wide receiver, and Isaiah Seawright's a tight end for the Giants. Your restricted free agents, you only have 3 of them. None of them are key contributors right now, so more depth pieces. So what do we want to look at here for the Giants? And I'm going to let you kind of talk about it, but I'll go ahead and run through what we see. I mean, certainly I would say overall the Giants need some work on defense. One area you mentioned a lot during the season that they were strong at was up the middle. Got some strength picked up last year. One of the Clemson studs in Dexter Lawrence playing up the middle. He's a little bit of a road grader, can eat up some space. Actually fairly agile for a guy his size. So he can do a lot of damage for you up the middle. So they seem okay there. But as I mentioned, you talk about 4 or 5 linebackers, including a couple of guys that got significant playing time next year coming out at linebacker. And certainly they've made some moves in their secondary. They got rid of Janoris Jenkins. They cut him. That was near the end of the year last year, I believe. Right, where they cut
Saints
him.
picked him up. Yeah, it was right after the halfway point.
Yeah, had given up on Eli Apple from 4 years ago, I think it was, and he had gone on to New Orleans. So really, I would say the back 7 of your defense is somewhere to look at. Again, wide receiver, do they go and sign Sterling Shepard, re-sign him is an area. They need to get some pressure off the edge. So those are just some big areas. And then I would say, shoring up some of that offensive line. As you'll remember, at number 7 last year, they took Daniel Jones. So they've got their quarterback. They got this guy who plays an okay running back in Saquon Barkley. So they got that going.
Not too bad.
They got Wayne Gallman as backup. They got a few guys there. They got some depth pieces. So certainly, and then at the wide receiver, it is a little bit curious, but they had some guys that played, I thought, pretty well last year, given where they were at. At the end, it was, I'm blanking. Who's the receiver that had a pretty good end of the year? Oh, God. You know who I'm talking about.
From Auburn, the rookie?
Yeah. What was his name?
What's his name? I don't know why.
I don't know
That's
why
my team.
Yeah, I'm blanking. But there's I guess the point is there's some youth there to be served, but they don't have that primary number 1 target, at least not developed as of yet. And certainly if they bring back Shepard, that's a good but a slot option there. So to me, when I look at the draft, I do believe the Giants are gonna work some of that offensive line, probably in the second and third round. Darius Slayton, thank you. Whew, okay, and I was losing it. To me, in free agency, they've got some opportunities at linebacker and certainly at edge. I see them would be, in my mind, they can go a couple of different routes. I think what is important to talk about with them drafting number 4 and the way I feel like this board could fall there's going to be a guy out there. And the question is, how do they envision him in this defense that I think I'm just going to say it. I think they're going to take him. I think Isaiah Simmons is going to be there, and I think he is going to be a no-brainer take kind of guy. The question is how they see him playing in that defense. If you watched any of this guy in college football, you always use that term game wrecker. He was probably 1A game wrecker with Chase Young. But the thing about Simmons is he is an incredible athlete for his size. He is big enough to play the outside linebacker positions. He's fast enough to play in the secondary. So, kind of how they play him will probably, or how they envision him, I think could be how they go forward. I don't know. That's my thought, but I want you rip it up. You tell me what's going on there and what you're seeing and what you want to see.
All right. Our restricted free agents are kicker Aldrick Rosas, fullback Eli Penny, and offensive center John Jalapeno. So here's my thought right off the bat. We're going to re-sign Rosas more than likely. Unless he thinks he's worth a lot more than he really is, but we'll probably get a good deal on him. I think that we should try to, you mentioned Zach Diassi. That won't be a lot. I think we'll bring him back. I think we should try to re-sign John Jalapeno at offensive center. Mm-hmm. I think we should try to re-sign Mike Remmers at offensive tackle. We just got him not long ago, from
he's playing on the right side, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then after that, then it's a question because Marcus Golden was the best edge guy we had this year.
Solder is still under contract, correct?
I think so.
Yes.
Yes.
So is he in your mind? Is he a cut guy? Just because he did command a pretty decent, he had the biggest, I think, tackle contract.
If we could, yeah. If we could, I don't think we're getting the worth out of him. I think that, there's going to be a lot of what we do in free agency, as most teams will, for us, is definitely going to decide what that number 4 pick is. Because if we're able to re-sign Remmers and Jalapeno, okay, if we're, and then depending on whether we want to re-sign Marcus Golden, a lot of people want to. He started to show up at the end of the year. I just didn't see a lot of the pass rush, and I do think we're going to re-sign Leonard Williams. I think he's good. I don't know if we really need him, but we can kick him out to that, edge spot if we had to because we have some strength and depth inside. But I don't see how we just gave up what we gave up to rent a player for half a year without trying to re-sign him. I just think that Gettleman and the front office will get eaten alive if they don't re-sign him. And unfortunately, he's going to command some money, even though he really hasn't performed to the money he's going to certainly want. But, hell, that's the whole NFL, okay? So those are guys that I think we need to focus on signing, leaving a lot of the rest of it out of it. Now, what we need, in my mind, is offensive line, is edge rusher, is linebacker, secondary, wide receiver. We need it a lot of places, man. Yep. But the way they're talking is that we're going to go O-line or we're going to go defense, in particular linebacker. Now I'm a Clemson guy. I would love to see Isaiah. I don't want to. I honestly, I think there is a lot of offensive linemen. We've gotten burned in the past picking an offensive lineman early and corner. So I'm a little.
And do you really think there's an offensive lineman worthy of a 4 pick?
I don't. Yeah, unless we trade back, which apparently we're open for business, but that's not something that Gettleman does. The Giants might do it. The Giants might go not trade up, but they would trade back. But Gettleman is not known to do that.
Yep.
In his history. So, but he did say we're open for business. So if we do trade back, then I anticipate we are going to take an offensive lineman in the first round. Okay. Yep. But I still think you could get one in early second that would be mighty fine as well. Okay. And that would be more comfortable for a guy like me because I said, I that's a rookie position that I worry about. Same with corner. I didn't think we would go after Okudah. Isaiah is a beast. Now, what happens if, for some reason, Chase Young doesn't get taken before us? That's where we go.
Yeah, I would agree with you. If for
some reason
Chase
Washington doesn't take him,
goes quarterback, and maybe Detroit goes Okudah. I don't really understand top 5 cornerback picks on teams that don't have pass rushing because I just feel like you're gonna leave them on an island. But But if there is a lot of belief there. So that, and again, it depends on what other teams do in free agency.
Right.
I guess I look at it. And
I think we could get a wide receiver. Leighton, there's a lot of wide receivers in this draft. I think we need to focus the early picks on either edge rusher and or linebacker, and think about the offensive. Again, if we trade back and are able to maybe get 2 picks in the in the second round, I don't think we have one. Then I think we're going to take an offensive lineman. Then those 2 second-round picks could be 2 defensive guys. But Isaiah does make a lot of sense just because he could cover up a lot of deficiencies we have in defense with one guy, and there's really not a lot of guys, especially in this draft, that you could say that about.
Yeah, I think, trading back has been, if you really look over the last 3-4 years, it's been very difficult for teams to trade back out of those early round picks. And it used to be because of the cost. Now it's not so much that. It's the game. I think the thing that may hinder the Giants from being able to trade back is there is definitely, I think there's a perception, there's a gap between Tua and the other quarterbacks. You got Burrow, Tua, I think. And I'm not saying that's accurate. I just think there is a perception of that when you get into Herbert. And now you're starting to talk about, you're getting guys talking about Jordan Love. There's always that guy that kind of comes out.
Mahomes, is this the next Mahomes?
Yeah.
I mean, look, and in terms of Daniel Jones, look, I thought he did a fine job last year. We need a lot of help, okay?
Yep.
The biggest thing that concerned me, I guess, is that I didn't see, and I know Saquon dealt with injuries, but I didn't see Saquon and Daniel, like when Jones had some really great pass yarding games and Saquon wasn't to be like, I need to see both of them clicking at full throttle to feel comfortable. Now, say that we're a team that should go out and look at quarterback, it'd be silly, but you have crazy people out there that might say something like that. It is the New York media, but no. And you said it before. Look, if Daniel Jones is a fail this year, Trevor Lawrence comes out next year.
Yeah, well, I also think this. Here's what the Giants do need to do, and I got a kind of a name in mind, and more of his profile than his name. The Giants need to go out and they need to get a guy. In my mind, I think of a guy like Case Keenum. He's going to come at a little bit of a discount. He can play a starting role for you with the idea that I think they need to do the exact opposite of what Washington does. Washington needs to have a guy that could potentially start 12 games if Haskins is a disaster. Whereas I think you look at it with Daniel Jones and you need a guy that can come in case Daniel Jones has an injury, something like that can win a few games here and there. Because if Daniel Jones goes down, again, they need the savings of what they got with taking Eli Manning's contract off the books to go and address other areas.
I mean, we got guys like Alex Tanney behind them.
Yeah, but I think you need a veteran that you don't want to go as low as a Chase Daniel. I did get that name right this time, but you do want to go. I think a Keenum would make sense because he's not. There's too much out there right now as far as availability of journeymen or older quarterbacks that I don't think you need to go and get in that bidding market.
We're gonna have to do something at quarterback.
Well, that's why
whether we draft one extremely late or we go a free agency would be better, because right now all we have on the roster is Daniel Jones and Tanney.
Yep.
In terms of quarterbacks, so we will. I think that's your perfect. That's a great example. And depending on how much money we have, maybe we could try to get a little crazier with it. But a guy like Case Keenum also, again, he played for the Redskins, even though it's Ron Rivera, but he also saw Haskins. Yep. It could help us. That's a great idea.
Yeah, because I look at it and I go, you can go a couple. You're not going to go a Bridgewater route or any of the high level guys.
No.
You don't really want to go after Phillip Rivers, and I think there's a little bit of old school seated thought in that too. Like guys that are going to cost you money that really are just for a short term, but at the same time, you're not going to trade for a Dalton because you don't want to pick up the contract. And I look at it, and, you don't want to get a Mariota who has really never proven that he can be a starter. Keenum has proven that he can come in and he can certainly be serviceable, if not spectacular, and he could actually win you a couple of games if he had to. So with that being said, I think there's some savings there on that side of the ball. I think, again, you're set at running back. I think the point is this is a team that could do it through the aggregate, meaning getting more guys out there. They really lacked consistency, like if they could decide to be consistent at linebacker and strong in the secondary, like they can go with that mindset. Like I need some tacklers.
Yeah.
And I'll go get good secondary, and then I can spend money on an edge rusher, or
We
go
need to have more
Yeah.
pressure.
or go. I'm gonna go.
We need. I mean, like that is my biggest thing, and that's why though Isaiah's not an edge guy, you can bring him up, and he can go sideline to sideline easily. If Chase isn't there, and we talked about him in the college podcast, AJ Epineza is the next guy on the board, they say, and he didn't really have a great combine. I still think he'll be a good player. He's as but. At that point, it's like, do we try to just resign Marcus Golden? Because I don't know that, especially the next year or two, Epineza would be better than that. Now, Chase Young, it's like, hell yeah. But if he's not there, which I don't expect him to be, then Isaiah makes defense is where I'd like to. You always want to protect the young quarterback. You want to have offensive line. But if we can make some moves with the free agents we have, re-sign some of them, maybe find some. I just think a guy like Isaiah, again, I'll say it again, if Chase Young were to happen to slip up, that's the guy. But outside of that, on defense in this draft, I mean, and again, I'm a giant Clemson homer, but it's got nothing to do with that. I was being completely objective when I said that guy was a game changer all year, and it was because of what I saw and what I've seen of him. I followed his career. He was a 3-star athlete out of Olaf, Kansas at safety, okay? Yep. And he was 6 foot, maybe 2-3 nothing. I mean, the guy grew a little bit. Huge. He is the next guy out in the draft that you want on defense.
Well,
so that's where
I look at it this way, like, too, is, and again, I go back to what they can do is, and I said this before, when I compare Isaiah Simmons as an example, like, here's what I'm looking at. Number 4, I can't miss, and I want somebody to build around. Well, here's the reality. There's no such thing as a can't miss quarterback in the NFL. It's just there's no such thing. And I got to tell you, these are even still, he's not can't miss. Put him in the wrong situation, and I always use the David Carr nightmare. You take a guy number 1, you let him get the hell beat out of him for 4 years, and his confidence goes to hell. And I love Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Bears, if you guys want to suck this year for him, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not going to cry, but you better suck bad enough to get him, because don't suck and be number 2. So
how many of those teams that passed up on Deshaun Watson, in that
Bears
draft are looking towards next year like that shit ain't gonna happen again?
Yeah. Like, so that's a reality. But I think the point is the Giants could have that. I agree with you. Chase Young and Isaiah Simmons, and probably the tackle. What's his name? Wirfs.
Yeah, Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah, Wirfs.
Because a lot of people are saying, I've seen the Wirfs had a great workout. So did the kid from Louisville in the combine. But they're also I've seen Andrew Thomas from Georgia. I've seen a ton of Jedrick Willis, the offensive lineman from Alabama.
Yep.
If it were my druthers, if we were going to go offensive linemen, then what I said, we should find a way to drop back.
Yeah, but
and then take Wirfs, not too far, but you could drop back.
I agree.
You could drop back to 6 or 7.
The drop back is going to be some. It's going to take
nowadays
a player with. Another team to play the game with.
Right. And I think that could be out there. It always is.
It could, but
nowadays the teams will give up a boatload if they think it's going to get the guy they want.
They do. I think the hard part about this, though, is as deep as the quarterback draft is, there is.
Question
Unlike
marks.
any other years, there's so much potential for chaos in the free agency quarterback market, where usually those two aren't married together.
Well, but again, like Wirfs would be the guy if we were going to go offensive line, drop back, get some picks, and try to get Wirfs. If not, then go Jedrick Willis or the kid from Louisville, and then Andrew Thomas in that order. If we're going to stay where we are, and Chase isn't there, I'm getting another New York Giants jersey this year.
So my belief is
Isaiah Simmons.
I think the Giants got to look at ways to improve the edge rush. They just have to decide, and that's the hard part, because they are in the middle of a transition into. Yeah. Even though they've got the same GM, they have new coaching staff, and obviously you got a guy from the Patriots who's kind of little known.
What if we try to go get Clowney?
Good, yeah, right. So
what if we do that?
But I think what the Giants need to do is one. I'm always a proponent of build from the line out on both sides of the ball. Always have been. The Giants have some talent. What I don't want, I want to see them. I really would like to see them go offensive line, either go get somebody big in free agency, or if they think they can trade back. The problem is, if you skip out on the free agency and then the draft comes around and you got no willing partners, I just don't know that. Even as much as I like worse, I don't think you go worse at 4.
No,
so my point
I
is,
just rattled off 4 guys, and there's a lot of them in this draft. But I just rattled off 4 offensive linemen that even if we don't trade back, I bet you one of them could still be there at number 4 overall in round 2.
Potentially, it's
like an Andrew Thomas, and there's still more. That's just 4. I mean, there's a lot of offensive linemen in this draft. There's a lot of defensive linemen in this draft. A lot of wide receivers and running. I mean, this is a loaded draft. I think it's actually light on overall quarterbacks. There's a handful, but overall, like, I don't know how many we'll see late rounds drafted. I just don't know.
No, I think where you're going to see it, I think what's going to be the barometer for that is going to be one player. Is going to be Jacob Eason. Is Jacob Eason a second rounder, or does he turn into a 4th or 5th round?
What about Jalen Hurts?
I think Hurts at best is a 5th rounder.
What about Jake Fromm?
Yeah, he killed himself. So,
Yep.
so my point is, I think there's going to be a gap, like you said.
Here's the deal. Just to wrap this up on the Giants. Giants fans, and as well as myself, and again, not because I'm a Clemson guy, I think they would love, if we had that pick at 4, I think Isaiah is the one everybody would love to see, because offensive line isn't sexy, right?
Yep.
So, but Gettleman loves the hog mollies, as he says. So going into the combine, there was a lot of people going both ways on their mocks for us. Mostly it was Isaiah Simmons or offensive line, whoever it may be. I think after the combine, though, because Isaiah absolutely annihilated it, I think this Gettleman and them were leaning more towards the hog molly. But I think they liked Isaiah. I think after what he did at the combine, he might have pushed himself ahead.
Yeah. Well, I
especially think, like you said, if Chase doesn't drop, and if we don't find a partner,
I think here's the thing that's very interesting to me is, given their draft position, given what I believe will be ahead of them, given what will be out there, and again, this is not we were talking a lot of draft, but this is a free agency thing. I think the thing that the Giants can do, given that we mentioned they have a lot of places they can go to, is that they have versatility and can go play value. I don't think they need to go out there and get the highest dollar guy at every position. They can go out there and look at, okay, where is their value at positions? And from there, they can start to build their team. And then in turn, that can create a draft strategy for them. Like, to me, right now, I think wide receiver is going to have some players available in the 2nd through 4th round. Linebackers you can definitely get depending upon what you do. Edge rusher, I think edge rusher to me is probably something on the edge is going to be the thing I think they should look at the most in free agency. But the question is, can they find value there? Because sometimes you get slaughtered by that. Or is it trade somewhere available? I mean, to them?
like
Ngakwe could be an example. A guy wants to get out of a franchise.
Right. We've got Jadeveon Clowney out there, Eric Armstead from the runner-up San Francisco 49ers.
More of a 4-3-4.
Marcus Golden's on our team. Jamie Collins, Shaq Barrett, who's great.
Yeah, you're going to pay for that one.
Yep. Dante Fowler Jr., we said Marcus Golden. Everson Griffin, JPP, maybe he wants to come back to New York. We talked about Ngakwe. Robert Quinn's out there. Vic Beasley. I love Vic, but I don't think he's for us. We need a bigger guy. So you've got a lot of edge defenders out there.
Yeah, and I think this is a team that can
improve
significantly.
And I think that if we can improve offensive line, if we don't need to go to the draft with it, and we can do it. I mean, there are some really good. We mentioned Scherf. You got Balaga still out there. Anthony Costanzo. Hell yeah. From the Colts.
Yep.
He's great. Jack Conklin is really good. You got Peters. Okay, from not just a good tackle, but on a rival team. Like, if we are able to maybe re-sign a couple of our guys and spend money on the offensive line, mostly in free agency, we can go crazy with sexy picks in the draft. There's guys out there, and in terms of wide receiver, it's one of the most deep free agent markets. Like, it's the biggest. I think it's the biggest list of all the position groups. I'm looking at it now. It's the biggest list of all the position groups is wide receiver, as it should be.
Yeah,
There's
to me,
3 to 4 of them
wide
on the field
receiver,
at a time.
I believe this. I believe they can go value on wide receiver. I think they can go value on secondary. This is a team I think that can improve drastically this year without selling their soul and coming into next year with no money. Because that's the problem you get with teams like this. They get this high level of spending, and they start to go, I got to spend it all right now because we're not very good. But I think the Giants have some pieces in place where they can play value and build for the future, and they're a team that could be – I tell you this, in 2 years from now, they're a team that could be deadly if they spend their money the right way. And this is a good team. I think it's a good team.
Hopefully.
But they got to make good decisions. This is a huge decision year for them.
This is a good you're right. It's a big decision year, as it is, I'm sure, for everybody. But this is my team too. So, all right. We'll wrap the Giants there, and then we'll bust out the Cowboys.